Hello and welcome. Nice, I hope you can hear the birds singing. I put some food out there for the local cats. Somebody asked if I see Balala the cat any more, and yes I do. On alms round Pindapata each day when I walk into the village, I often see Balala, and her kittens also I have met. So she's still around, but it's a little bit out of her territory where I'm living now. But there are a few more cats and kittens around here. But as you know, there's Nasha the dog next door, so they keep timidly away, but slowly they're getting used to my presence and coming in, and I'm putting a little food outside each day. New Year continues. It seems to go on for a very long time here. A week it seems now. My food I've put out there for my excess, the abundance of generosity goes on even during this holiday period, even though a lot of places are shut up and people have gone away. Other people have come out offering food and by way of dana, which is very kind and very supportive of my being here. So this continues, so I still have surplus, but nobody to come and distribute it today. And maybe there's nowhere for it to be distributed to. So I gave as much away of it as I could on the way round, on my alms round, to the remaining homeless people, but even some of those have gone away. So it's going to be going to nature. So that might encourage more feline visitors. And that person who asked about Balala, also Balala, my old cat in the old place, also mentioned about Nasha the dog, and I did mention that he's a bit growly and looks like he's going to bite. No, he doesn't actually ever bite me. He's never bitten me. He just appears that way. I think he does know it's bad karma, to answer your question or comment, to bite monks. Actually, it's quite common that monastery dogs and dogs in areas where there are monks do know that. So various reasons behind that people have, but you're usually quite safe wearing this outfit even when dogs are quite fierce looking. So let's get on with these questions and comments today. So the first I have here: do you think you will come back to Europe someday? Well, I have no plans to go anywhere, particularly not to return to the UK or to anywhere in Europe where it is climate-wise not so practical to live as literally as I do, because of course the Buddha lived in Asia. His original Sangha were in northeast India, which is a lot cooler than perhaps some of the areas I've been in, but a much more conducive climate to this way of life. A lot of our Vinaya is structured also around the seasons of this. For instance, the Vasa, the rainy season, what we have to do in that time, which I've spoken about regularly, is geared up around that. Now that doesn't really work in the West because that's the summer when you're in Europe and in the UK and even in America. So they have to have a second kind of 3-month winter retreat in the winter. And observance of the Vasa, the rains retreat, is done in a slightly different way. So there's all of these contributory factors that don't encourage me, or I have no necessity to return to that part of the world. But if I have an invitation to visit, I'll go, I'm sure. Do you have an overview? Of the Karaniya Sutta, the Karaniya Meta Sutta? I have heard others, but would like to hear yours. Oh, this is 2 questions. Your bowl is quite large. Yes, it gets filled up. Do you finish it all or share with other peoples or animals? Well, that I didn't know that question was there. So coincidentally, I've just answered it, haven't I? Wow. I knew this next question, the first part of the question. I hadn't seen the extra bit. So there's a thing. I answered a question before I read it. Yes, I'm quite surprised about that. So, do you have an overview of the Kadar Meta Sutta? Yes, be nice. That's about it. Is my overview. You've heard others, but would like to hear yours. It's what it is. Like all of these things, why complicated? It's be nice, be kind to all beings. Practice, develop the Brahma Viharas of metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, joy for others. That is the antidote to jealousy, if you like, or envy. And upekkha, equanimity. This assists with all of those other qualities, in fact. So equanimity, a non-reactive nature, upekkha, as in the Pali word. So these are the 4 Brahma Viharas, the development of those. But if I just, and I'll read it to you, the English part. One of my favourite verses in the chanting, in the suttas that we chant, in the paritas, in the suttas that we chant. One of, I think, the most powerful and empowering of these verses is this, in the English, from the Kadar Meta Sutta. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now I find that evocative of metta, karuna, mudita and upekkha, those 4 Brahma Viharas, and a very powerful verse indeed. That, I think, sums up and is my overview of the Kadar Meta Sutta. It teaches us how to be kind to all beings, to respect everyone's rights to live happily and enjoy that they are living happily alongside us, apart from us, at a distance, nearby. It doesn't matter. All beings. It also is describing, and you go to the chanting book and you have the English translation there, how we behave in order to achieve those qualities. So our general behaviour towards others. Right, thank you for responding to one of my last... Okay, yes, no, I think that's just one I've answered. Do you have any advice on doing corpse meditation without access to a corpse? So I wouldn't really suggest you need to do that. We don't... I mean, I've had more than my fair share of corpses in recent years in this part of the world, and also in my own people I've known who've died, who I've seen. So we have something we call asubha, which is the unbeautiful nature of things. Subha, beautiful; asubha, unbeautiful, not beautiful. And we use death contemplation, we use 32 parts of the body contemplation, and we can use the stages of decomposition of the body after death as a contemplation, if necessary. But this is quite a harsh way of directing the mind. What we should be directing the mind towards is pleasant, enjoyable things. We use Marana Nusati, the contemplation of death, to evoke urgency in our practice, to hurry us along in our practice, so we don't dilly-dally along the way, so we get on with our meditation. We put the hours in, the effort, the diligent work in developing wisdom, because we don't have long. We don't know if we will live tomorrow, even the next hour, the next minute, or even beyond the next breath. So this develops that sense of urgency. If you really want to go and study dead corpses and practice in this way, firstly, ask yourself exactly why you need to do this, and what it is you think you'll get from it. After all, we're looking to develop wholesome states of mind. This isn't necessarily doing that. It's not it's usually a way that monks use to practice to counteract desire, specifically sexual desire, but sensual desire of all kinds will be counteracted via this form of meditation. For monks, for nuns. So we do often go to autopsies, visit, and of course part of our life in Asia is visiting the corpses of people who have died. And there are different cultures, different countries have different ways of dealing with that, treating that, so monks have different roles depending on where you are. But you get to see quite a few of them. So yeah, otherwise I'm sure this is stuff you can just find on the internet. Look at the gory pictures if you must. It's not that necessary particularly. There's that question about Nasha and Balala, that we've got to that already, so I seem to be answering questions before I get to them today. You'd like to hear more about the 7 factors of enlightenment. Okay, well, we'll talk just briefly on this, another list. These are also contained in a chant, a sutta, the Bojjhanga Sutta, which we chant, which is quite a short chant and just lists the 7 factors of enlightenment in relation to actually also the contemplation at death, how we feel at the point of death, what we've developed throughout our practice, throughout our lives, in relation to the development of those qualities, again, those 4 Brahma Viharas of metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, joy for others, and upekkha, equanimity. Because having developed those 4 Brahma Viharas at the point of death, having also developed mindfulness, which is the first, sati, of the 7 factors of enlightenment, investigation, vichaya, this is, excuse me, I'm reading this in case I forget 1 or 2, or get them in another order. The order doesn't matter so much, but I like to keep them in the order that they're written down. Investigation, the ability to have insight. This is what we often refer to as insight or vipassana, seeing clearly the nature of existence, that is of anicca, of dukkha, and of anatta. Hi, excuse me. Hello, excuse me. Is artist man here? No, not here. Sees I'm talking. Energy, virya, this energy that is the 3rd, happiness, piti, tranquility, pasadi. This is developed as part of our practice of meditation, samadhi. You often hear this term samatha vipassana or vipassana samatha. So this is developing tranquility and peace of mind through our practice of meditation. Pasadi is the Pali word for that tranquility. Samadhi, concentration, and equanimity, upekkha. Now you'll see from that most of these, so sati, virya, samadhi are the content of the Noble Eightfold Path. So what we're talking about with regards to the 7 factors of enlightenment are again, qualities that we have developed through the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, which will also result in these additional qualities of having a clear seeing, vipassana, so an investigative nature, to be able to see clearly the true characteristics of existence, anicca, dukkha, anatta, vichaya. Piti, which is just general happiness, this emotion of happiness coming from contentment. Passaddhi, as I've just spoken of, tranquility. And upekkha, that 4th of the 4 Brahma Viharas, equanimity, unreactiveness. So it's interweaving these qualities with the Noble Eightfold Path. Another list, and as all these lists do, they interconnect and form parts of each other. So if you want an expansive talk on each of these qualities, Ajahn Sona's channel has a whole, I think there are hour talks on each of these, Sati, Vichaya, Virya, Piti, Passaddhi, Samadhi, Upekkha. An hour's talk on each of those given by Ajahn Sona, which is very exhaustive in its content and gives you all of you need to know about each of these qualities. If you want a quick summation, the Bojjhanga chant in the chanting book about sums it up. And I can only tell you from my experience that all you really need to know is the understanding of what those qualities are. And this you get from the practice itself. Like all these things, the Noble Eightfold Path, divided into three categories of sila, samadhi, panya, is going to encompass all of those qualities, or the development of those qualities in one's mind, in the development of wholesome mind states and the eradication of unwholesome mind states. So this is where we're leading to when we're looking towards enlightenment. Again, labeling lists are useful to understand the direction in which we need to go. But we don't need to have to identify, label, signpost each step along the way continually, because that is to some extent taking us off the path of practice into the path or in the direction of intellectualization, analysis, and therefore from that often some form of debate, discussion, papancha, overthinking. This is just a way of sitting quietly, letting the mind become calm after it's had time to settle, the body to have time to settle and relax, and to develop piti, happiness, one of the 7 factors of enlightenment, and those other 6 factors through this practice. It's not research, it's practice, it's doing it. Okay. So that's a very long question. Let me just go through the background. Someone who wants to do what I'm doing now. To go into a bit more detail, is practicing for some time in Theravada Buddhism, and I think just skipping through it, would like to become a monk. Well, I have made a couple of talks on how one does this. It rather depends where you are. You're in the UK. So go to your monasteries. You have 4 there. You're in Bolton, which is the Midlands, so you're really central. I think the nearest might be Aruna. I've not forgotten the name of it now. If you go to the forestsangha.org website, look up the monasteries in the UK, it'll give you the addresses, contact details of all 4 of the main Ajahn Chah monasteries in the UK. Go there, talk to them about your aspirations. This is what you do first. If, as you say, you want to You might not end up like me now, here, where I am doing what I'm doing. That is just as a result of causes and conditions that were in place, I put in place over the years. This is how karma, vipaka, has worked out for me. You may end up in a different place, in a different country. When we ordain, we let go of all of that. We let go of expectations. We let go, ultimately, our aim to become free from suffering in this lifetime is to be free from desire. Tanha, thirst, craving, this continuous need to try and satiate unsatiable wants. So we relinquish all that. It's a life of renunciation. It isn't just what you see here on the small screen, as it is now. You have to go through this whole letting go process, training, and it takes quite a long time. And I'm still in the very early stages of that. But a very sadhu, sadhu, sadhu for the good intention. Please visit your local monasteries if you can, and they will be able to help you, point you in the right direction. And watch those videos, How to Become a Monk. If you Google that or YouTube search that, it will come up with those two. I talked to the Buddha in samadhi, meditating and experiencing the difference between the outer world, samsara, of the brackets, samsara of the body senses, close brackets, and the inner world of samadhi. Please speak on this. I'm not sure what you want me to say, really. You've spoken on it. This is what you do. When we meditate, we are bringing our awareness, our attention to the meditation object of our choice, which I would recommend should be the breath, as it's continually with us and can be used in conjunction with mindfulness throughout all of our daily activities, not just when we're sitting in formal meditation. But in developing samadhi and developing deep states of absorption, we can become secluded from the senses, the five of six senses, or five of the six senses: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and just be left with awareness or thought. So awareness that we're not being affected by all that's going on around us, because our eyes are closed, but even visual effects that we may be seeing, things we may be hearing, smells we may be smelling, tastes we may be tasting, feelings we may be feeling. None of this is bothering us. We become secluded and protected from that. With this, we can enjoy an undisturbed state of absorption with observation of the meditation object on its own. From this, we will develop, depending on how deep into the meditation you go, you will develop stages of contentment, happiness, piti we call, and sukha, which is physical contentment or rapture, it's often described as. So essentially, you become relaxed and physically comfortable and mentally calm and happy. And this is really what meditation, what samadhi is about. So when you say, please speak on this, it's what I'm always speaking about: meditation, samadhi. What you're speaking about specifically is what people in this tradition, Theravada Buddhism, are practicing continuously. Sila, firstly, for the foundations, the moral virtue. Samadhi, then, is the practice of meditation. And this is how we develop wisdom, panya. As for talking to the Buddha, I mean, I'm not sure what you mean exactly by that, whether you mean literally or hypothetically, metaphorically speaking, I'm not sure. Personally, I don't have one-to-one discussion with the Buddha, or know anyone who does. Last time I checked, there were 4 jhanas, not 8. Well, there are 4 jhanas, yes, you're correct, in terms of the bodily sense, the rupa jhanas. Then we go into the arupa jhanas, which are the next 4 jhanas. This is where the 8 come from. So there are 8. When you go into the Abhidharma, it then expands upon that into 16 and stages and much more detail. But, in a way, essentially what you're referring to is what we can experience and know about more commonly, and even attainment to the 4th jhana is a very high expectation level of attainment, or is considered as such already, let alone moving into 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. Last time you checked, I don't know where you checked. Maybe check again, maybe there's another chapter. I think we answered that yesterday. Is 50 too old to ordain? No. I'm reading old autobiographies from Thai monks, etc. They eat a little fish now and then, so it says. Yes, no problem with that. Often not a lot of choice, bit of fish curry. This dried fish is what they use a lot of here. I personally am a vegetarian, and you could say I'm vegan because I don't eat dairy products or eggs or fish either. But that's through choice. It's not because I'm a monk. Anyway, I think that question's coming up again in a minute, so I won't dwell on it too much, and I've spoken about it a lot. Are you chanting Jina Panjara? Is it a parita for protection? Do I need chanting parita for protection daily? No, I'm not chanting that particular in any of my, if you're referring to the morning chanting, I simply chant the recollection of the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and the set devotional chants they use here in Sri Lanka when offering incense, lights, candles, flowers and this kind of thing, to keep it quite short, just as a warm-up to a short meditation, and then I chant some blessings, that's all. The blessings aren't magical, they're sharing my good wishes for you, to have a good day and to have a long and healthy life, and to be comfortable. This is not magical powers I'm talking about. As for your own protection, you don't need to chant anything for your protection. You need to know that you are in charge, responsible for your own actions of body, speech and mind, which will have its own results. This is karma and karma vipaka. Vipaka, the results of karma, karma your actions. So any amount of chanting won't change that. They're not magic, these chants, but they remind us and they put our minds, our thought process in a wholesome state. It's a skillful way of training the mind in the right direction, to focus on good things, good thoughts, good wishes. This is the point of chanting. It isn't to make things happen. It is not prayer, remember that. It is considered as such here and in Thailand and in many Buddhist countries, but in what I'm talking about, I am not praying for any higher power to give assistance to anything that's happening here on earth, and purely am responsible as far as in my own experience and I am concerned with my own actions of body, speech and mind and their results, as I would suggest and encourage you should be also. Because if you keep 5 precepts and you follow the Noble Eightfold Path, then you will you will become happy, you will have contentment, you will have success, things will go well. If you don't keep the precepts, you don't follow the Noble Eightfold Path, any amount of chanting, praying, worshipping, anything of that nature is not going to make the slightest bit of difference whatsoever. You need to keep the precepts, you need to keep sila, that is that. You need to meditate, you need to practice samadhi. You need to develop wholesome mind states and reduce unwholesome mind states, which is wisdom, and that is part of what chanting is for, to assist with that development of wholesome mind states by bringing your mind, conditioning it in a good way, skillfully, in the right direction. Usually the chants are partly reflections on how we behave and what we do, or on the requisites we use, reflections on the Buddha's teachings. The paritas, which means protective chants, are instructions. They are also reflections on past experience of enlightened beings, Buddhas, disciples of the Buddha, and we learn from those experiences, those reflections on those experiences, how we should behave in order to have derived the same benefit. We're not praying to 28 Buddhas to help us, or 28 disciples, or so on and so forth, through their good work to assist us now. We're reflecting on their good qualities in the hopes that by that reflection we will develop those same qualities in ourselves and reflect also their good fortune. Okay? What would you suggest for people with back issues, Bhante? Some posture, same posture while sitting on a chair? Yes, it's fine. If you watch my How to Sit for Meditation talk, it's contained in there. I include sitting on a chair is fine, it's sitting, but not a big comfortable chair, and preferably not one with arms. You need to still sit upright, don't lean back. Often the best sort of chair is a stool. It doesn't have a back. Or I have a plastic chair out there on the veranda, which if I used to sit on, I can sit like this because it has no arms and I don't have to lean on the back, but I can still sit exactly in this posture. But if you have a bad back, you may need to, or bad knees or hips, you may need to keep your legs down straight. But you need to be comfortable. So if you have back issues already, you don't want to aggravate those. So take all medical advice that you've been given, and act in accordance with that. It shouldn't affect your meditation. You can still practice sitting, standing, walking, lying down, the four postures, whether you need cushions, supports, seats, chairs or not. But just have an awareness that you don't want to make yourself too comfortable using the condition, or the pre-existing condition, complaint, as an excuse to be a little bit more comfortable so that you can just doze off, because this would just defeat the object. Do you ever plan or have you made any videos on the Diamond Sutra? I say Sutra because you've written it correctly, Diamond Sutra, because this comes from the Mahayana sutras, which are Sanskrit, as opposed to the Pali, the Theravada Pali canon, suttas, which is the Pali language. So, and the Diamond Sutra is not part of the Pali canon we use in Theravada. So I did answer a bit brief, no. So I haven't made any videos on the Diamond Sutra. I have no plans to make any videos on the Diamond Sutra because it doesn't come into my tradition. Now, it's not that I'm just blindly excluding it. I'm sure, and I have looked at it previously, a long time ago. These are all very interesting, very beautiful and very wonderful. But one has to have some limits, some parameters. Especially if you've ordained as a Theravada Buddhist monk. This is what you are. You're going to have done a lot of research, as I did before ordaining. As you know, I ordained very late in life, but I spent a long time traveling, living in monasteries with different traditions, going to the places where those different traditions are practicing, seeing the people who practice it, lay people, seeing the monks who practice it, and really experiencing it all before I chose this tradition. So now all I'll do is practice this Theravada tradition, and what I can talk about is from my own experience, is that, the Theravada tradition. So it's not that I don't want to diversify, I've done all that, and focus now on what I discovered from that diversification is the most appropriate practice for myself, firstly, in order for me to hopefully achieve a level of attainment where I can become free from suffering in this lifetime by way of an example for others. This is how we help others, by example, not by preaching or teaching, but by showing people how it can be done. An ordinary person can live a very content and happy life with very little, and this is the practice. Do you only eat vegetables? Are all monks required to be vegetarians? So yeah, I do, as I've just said in a minute ago, previous question, but no, all monks in this tradition, back to that, aren't required to be vegetarian, although in some of the Mahayana traditions, Zen traditions, then they are. They have other restrictions on different kinds of foods like onions, leeks, garlic, for various reasons. But in this tradition, geographically is mainly the reason, because there weren't an abundance historically of vegetables in this part of the world for people to eat. One would eat fish and spices and rice, as it's what was available. Now, of course, it's different, everything's available, and by choice I'm a vegetarian, so I don't eat any of those things. But it's not a part of our rules. This is quite a long statement, but my answer is quite short, so I'll read this. You can live the life in accordance with the teaching of the Buddha without being a monk or a nun. Some people bring those habits throughout many past lives, and they feel at ease to live according to the Buddhist teachings in the present life. Yes, that's correct. That's my answer. Be happy and stay well. Can monks do physical exercise like regular workouts? Just back to that question. You know, you can become an arahant as a lay person. It's just as a monk or a nun, you have more time to spend on the practice. It's all you have time to do. It should be. You shouldn't be engaged in any other activity. You should just be able to practice meditation, keeping your precepts, but practicing meditation and developing wisdom solely, because you've renounced all other distractions. So this is the point of becoming a monk or nun. It isn't, though, saying that enlightenment or the ultimate attainments are exclusively for monks and nuns. It's not that at all, no. Many arahants have come from lay life also. So can monks do physical exercise like regular workouts? Well, they could do, but why would they want to? And do they have time? Their objective is enlightenment, to practice meditation. Any minute of the day that they have spare, they will sit in samadhi and enjoy meditation. A workout, a regular workout of the mind, which is far more important. My answer to you was a bit obtuse, so I apologise for that. A monk's life is physical exercise. Actually, it is. I mean, I have to walk 9 kilometres every day in bare feet to get my food, well, 4 kilometres, and quite often, all the way back, another 4 kilometres, carrying all of that back. And as my son said, "Crumbs, Dad, no wonder you've had a hernia and need an operation, or have had an operation." And he does physical workouts in the gym each and every day and goes running and all of this usual things that a young man does these days. He was struggling walking back with what he described as only half what I was carrying, 25 kilos of vegetables and food and fruit and stuff, each and every morning in sweltering heat uphill. And during my operation recovery time, he was carrying most of it, 30 to 40 kilos. So if that, and then all of the other activities of walking, from getting the water and all of the other things we have to do, and cleaning in our everyday lives, and also when you're living sitting on the floor, just getting up to do anything, because you have to get up and get down again to do everything. You're doing continuous squat thrusts. So if I want to get up to turn the phone off here to stop this talk, I have to get up from this position. And we don't do it in an unelegant way. We try and get up nicely. So we don't push up with our hands and touch the floor and this kind of thing. We have certain Vinaya rules or guidelines as to how we stand, sit, get up from the sitting position, bow, all of these things. So it is all very much mindfully, skillfully exercising the body as well as the mind throughout our days. Now, if you don't accept that as an answer, I'm not suggesting you don't. I'm sure you believe me, but you're very welcome to come and try it out. My son, as I say, he stayed with me for a month, not with me, but nearby. And he found it physically exhausting, and whilst he was here had to really reduce his regular workouts and going to the gym, and certainly didn't need to go running or jogging whilst he was here, because just being with me for a couple of hours a day was sufficient exercise for him. And I'm, for my age, I think relatively fit, thankfully, because I'm well nourished thanks to the people here in this country and wherever else I've stayed in recent years who feed me good food, and I get sufficient exercise, so it's not necessary. So yeah, there's not a specific rule about it, but it's not necessary. We're not allowed to. There are certain movements and actions we're not supposed to, the way we're supposed to behave doesn't fit in well with what you describe as a regular workout, put it that way. A lot of monks will run up and down the steps. Many monasteries are on mountainsides with lots of steps, so they'll spend their days running up and down the steps. Well, I think it's better to be spending your day sitting and working on the mind. That's far more difficult, and if you can train the mind, the body will follow. Let me see if I'm getting to the end. I think this is the last question, so I'm going to squeeze it in. Am I right in saying keep watching the breath and the body, stillness will follow? Yes, you're pretty right in saying that, but maybe it's a bit more of a step-by-step approach. Firstly, we need to sit and just allow some time for the body to settle before it's going to... Body stillness won't just happen through watching the breath. No. But what will happen is by maintaining your awareness on a single object of meditation, like the breath, your mind will start to settle and become calm. And also your body with time will start to settle and be able to relax, and therefore will cease to need to move. And actually, as you become, like I was describing earlier, secluded from the senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, but mainly feeling, so discomfort like itching and scratching and knee ache and back ache, as you become secluded from those through absorption into your meditation object, there is no longer that requirement to move the body. So by that very nature, it's becoming still. So you're very right in what you're saying in summing that up, but of course it's a little more complex when you go into some detail as to how that happens. So I think that's enough for today. Thank you for those comments and questions, which are, after all, what help to keep this discussion flowing nicely. And if there's something useful that you can use, apply to your daily activities and involve in your lives, please use it and please share it with others if you can. If not, just let it go. Don't let it trouble you. And please come back, watch again. Until next time, be happy and stay well. Sukhi Hotu. Now I'm going to try and find someone to use this food. Oh, it's still there.